You're listening to Living Out Loud with my mom, Michelle Flamer. Yep, she's a flamer and proud of it. Get ready to learn about queers in your communities doing great things everywhere.
Welcome back to Living Out Loud. Today, I am so honored to be joined by Lisa Sugarman. Lisa is a nationally recognized voice in grief support, mental health awareness, and community healing. Her work meets people in some of their most tender, complicated, and human moments and helps turn those moments into understanding, connection, and hope. She's also the founder of HelpHub.co, a resource built to make support more accessible when people do not know where to turn. Lisa brings a rare blend of honesty, compassion, and lived experience to everything she writes and creates. This conversation is about what it means to be human in the middle of loss, growth, and rebuilding, and how we learn to support ourselves and each other more fully. Hi, welcome.
Hi, wasn't that nice? Thanks. It's
You're
glad to be
welcome.
here.
It's great to have you here. So, before we kind of get into the work and like where this came out of for you, because it always has to something this deep around grief and growth, and it has to come from somewhere. I don't like to say it's like the big idea, but a lot of times it's, the big pain, and that's
Yeah.
why it kind of gets forged. So before then, what I do like to ask is like a coming out story, who you were, who you are today, and we'll just kind of follow it from there. So I give you the mic.
Oh my God, that's a big arc. It's a very
Mhm.
big arc, and there are so many different jumping in points to my story. So I guess starting with the coming out story, it's been, I would say, I think it's almost to the day, 5 years to the day since I came out. So I'm 57 years old,
I love it.
been
Later in life,
married. That's right. That's right. I'm kind of like a unicorn, I guess, in some ways in this story because I have been married to my high school sweetheart. We've been together since we were 17 years old. We just celebrated our 33rd wedding anniversary just a few days ago, and we've got two grown daughters, and we've just been together forever. And he's my person. There's no question that he's my person. About 7 years ago, I think, when my oldest daughter, was in college, she came out as bi. And it was her coming out and just kind of diving headfirst into this new community that was now her community and her identity and her life, and learning all the intricacies. There's so many different nuances within the queer community. And like, I don't know what it was like for you when you were growing up or what your coming out story is, but for me, there were like two classifications. It was like you were gay or you were straight, and then eventually there was you were bi. There
Mm-hmm.
was nothing else. There
Yeah.
were no other terms or
Yeah.
labels or identifiers.
The
And so,
fluidity that is today.
yes, yes, which I think is a beautiful thing. I really do think it's a
Mhm.
beautiful thing. But there weren't words, for me at least, to really define kind of what I knew was in the background of my heart, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And when I trace it back, I remember being I was boy crazy. I was boy crazy when I was in like middle school, high school, and into college, and then as you get exposed to more people and more circumstances, I had a knowing. Let's put it this way. When I went off to college, I had a knowing that I wasn't straight, but I
Mhm.
didn't know what that meant, and I was living in a world that was not exactly super welcoming to that kind of disclosure. So I really just kind of kept it to myself, and flash forward, get married, have kids, and now my newly graduated from college daughter comes out as bi, which of course my husband and I were like, well, that's the greatest gift in the world, to have your daughter come to you and say, this is who I really am, and oh, by the way, I've never had a second's worth of fear or apprehension about telling you guys. It was about accepting it myself. So
Mhm.
her coming out was one of the greatest things that I've experienced as a mom. And then it just kind of led to conversations. We were just having all these conversations as she was kind of taking everything in and sponging everything up. All of a sudden, she's putting words to feelings that I had had.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And I can remember it like it was today. We were
Hmm.
sitting having breakfast, just the two of us, and we were talking, and she was explaining to me the kind of the nuances between bisexuality and pansexuality. And I was like, huh, like that really rings true to me and to my heart. And I just looked her right in the face and said, I really think that I'm pansexual. And I had had some conversations with my husband over the years. There was kind of some speculation that a very close friend of mine and I had somehow been together, and it was like the worst kept secret in the world, and it was the only experience that I had ever had, and it was in college. And I talked about it over the years with my husband, so he knew. He absolutely knew. It was not a secret surprise to him. So when I talked about it with my daughter, she was just thrilled that I was kind of honoring that part of myself. And
Yeah.
it wasn't a coming out to change my life and to leave my partner and to go be with someone else, or somehow kind of forge a new path. It wasn't like that. I
Mm,
really, in that moment, we had always been allies. And I felt like I couldn't be an ally anymore because that's not what I was.
mm.
I of course will always be at heart an ally, but I'm a part of this community. And I felt like, with marginalized communities, like you need representation wherever and however you can get it. And here I was, the mom of these daughters who I've been saying since the day they could understand my voice, exactly who you are in the world.
Yeah.
Go where you believe you should go, do what you believe you should do, be who you believe you are. How can I do that? How can I say that to them and then have this thing that's living inside me and be afraid to put it out in the light?
I love the way that you phrased all of that, because I think what's really important these days, and I'm learning through these kinds of conversations and through friends who work with later in life people, whether it's they're lesbian, bi, pan, whatever it is. I think it's such a small portion of the community in many ways, but I think you guys are overlooked also a lot of the time. But I think your story will really resonate with more people than not, if that makes
Hope
sense.
so. It does make sense, and I hope so. My like fingers and toes are crossed that
Yeah.
it does. If one person finds a point of connection in this
Yes.
conversation, then
Yes.
great. I
And
mean, I
we've
had
done our job. Done.
we've done it right, right. We can just call it a day. I I didn't come out because, like I said, I wanted to make some big shift. It was purely about honoring who I really was and being true to how I raised our girls, how we both raised our girls. And it honestly, I'm just it was such a gift to me to be able to do that and to have everyone in my life be so unbelievably supportive. I mean, I had no reason to come out. I was, I'm a woman married to a man. It's a hetero presenting relationship. W- Wasn't like I was looking to leave that relationship. So why do that? And to me, it was so crystal clear in that moment. And I remember we were on a drive. We had flown down to Florida. A lot of our family has since moved down to Florida. We're here in Boston, but everybody's kind of taken off. So we're always down there to see our family. And we were on our way to my sister-in-law's house for like a big, I think it was probably, sometime in June. It had to be because it was Pride, like a summer barbecue. And we're sitting there and we're driving in the car, and I was just going to post something about Pride, just in support of Pride, which is what I've always done. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I can't do this. I can't post as an ally anymore. How can I post as an ally? So I kind of turned the music down and was like, guys, I want to do a thing. And I want to talk about it with you guys first. And they were, all of them, both my girls and my husband, they were like, yep, we are 1000% behind you. And before I hit post, I talked to my family, my in-laws, my mom, my stepdad, everybody. And they said the same thing. And I said, here we go.
So how does it show up for you now within your marriage? You're just going to live basically still within the hetero confines? It's not like you're opening up your marriage or anything to that. It's just that you're more authentically you in every room.
Yep, exactly. That's a great
Okay.
way to put it. Yes, exactly, 100%. And my husband is unbelievably supportive,
Must be,
and
yeah,
he's
obviously.
the best guy, and he knows that he's the love of my life. Like, he's known it forever, and there is no question about that. That's not what my coming out was about. It wasn't in any way about him or about our life and future together. It was strictly about who I was inside. It was the way that I talk about it, the way I've talked about it a few times, and I'm a writer, so the way I've written about it. When you wear a pair of jeans and there's that little teeny, teeny, tiny pocket
Mhm.
in the front of the jeans
Yes,
that
yeah.
nobody knows what the hell the pocket's
It's a
for?
change pocket.
Right. Okay. So it's a change pocket. It's also the pocket where I kept my sexuality.
I love that.
And I just never took it out of the pocket. It was
Yeah, I
with
like
me
that analogy. Not that I
every,
loved you putting it in a pocket, but yes,
right.
I like the
Right.
analogy.
Well, I mean, it was partly in a pocket by design because, there was definitely a fear factor 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Mhm, mhm.
But even more than that, it was just not even having the language to understand in my own heart
Yeah.
what it was that I was.
Mhm.
And once I found that language, it was like instantaneous.
Yeah.
Just in a split second, it was this knowing and this clarity, and I had no interest in not being honest about that. I had no interest in hiding it or ignoring it. It felt way too important to do what I could in whatever way I could to support my daughter and to support my community. And it changed. I mean, in so many ways, it's changed the course of my life. In so many ways, it's brought me to so many different spaces and communities that I would never have been a part of. And now those are the places I want to spend all my time.
Yeah, you were saying earlier regarding the labels, that we identified with,
Mhm.
back in the day, basically.
Mhm.
I mean, I came out at 19. That was, literally 1989, 1880, 1989. My 14-year-old really thinks it's like the 1800s, the fact that I was
I'm sure.
in the 1900s. It's like she's so funny. But 1989, 1990 is when I came out. And yeah, it was, I only understood bisexuals at that point, and other than being gay and straight, like that was it. And after being with multiple back to back partners of like 8 years, and then my ex wife, 18 years, and now having a 14-year-old who's at a performing arts school where it is so fluid, and getting divorced, I guess 4 years ago, coming now I'm like coming out again in a sense, because now I'm single in my 50s and literally trying to understand this dating lingo of
Mhm.
non-monogamous, learning about poly, learning about all of these unique, beautiful, fluid, these spectrums that are now what we, kind of underneath the queer umbrella, where,
Yeah.
and then you have, I always knew about the trans community, but it was more of a drag queen thing back then. It wasn't really people that I knew even that had transitioned. Now I have plenty of friends who I've seen, from both, being in their dead gender, identity into their beautiful new, identity of them walking, the life authentic. So it is really fascinating, and there are going to be more. There's going to be more labels that come out. And I think that's
Yeah.
cool. I mean, like, as long as you feel good in your skin, like whoever's listening right now, I just want you to feel good in your skin. And that's what living out loud, is all about. Okay. So now thank you for like being authentic and your transparent self. And, I didn't expect anything less than that from you, but, when you think about the work you do today, what part of your own story first taught you how important this work would be, and like where this work started from?
Well, I do a lot of different kinds of work.
Yes,
So
that's
that I
true. I
think
was
maybe
talking about the hub and
to help
specifically,
it.
but you can go from wherever you want to start from.
Well, I think just for clarity's sake, just for
Yeah.
perspective, I want to let people understand that. So I'm a lot of different things. one of the main things that I do is create content. I do that in a lot of different ways. I have my own podcast as well called The Survivors. I am an author. I've written a bunch of books over the years. I was a columnist for a really long time. Right now, it's really all about podcasting and promoting this latest book that came out. It all kind of jives together. And of course, founding the Help Hub, which you talked about, which came from, in large part for me, came from the work that I do with the Trevor Project. So I know you and I have, like, we know that I have that in my background. We've talked about that.
Yes.
So I've been a crisis counselor on the Trevor Project Lifeline for 4 years now, and that was an extension of coming out. It was almost immediately after I came out when I realized that I needed to do more. It's just this domino effect for me. That's the way my brain works. It's like, okay, well, what can I do now? Well, okay, well, what can I do next and next and next? So many things were happening in my life at that time when I got involved with Trevor, when I came out. I'm a multiple survivor of suicide loss, and one of those, the most profound loss, is my dad. And that story is kind of nuanced also. None of my stories are straightforward. I'm just realizing that now while you and I are talking. They're a little complicated. So I lost my dad when I was 10 years old, a year after my cousin had taken his life.
Mm.
And I was told my dad died of a heart attack. And I lived with that narrative for 35 years. And then I accidentally found out when I was 45, same age he was when he died, that he had taken his own life. And that just completely blew me up. Absolutely blew me up, shut me down. I stopped writing. This was before I was with the Trevor Project. This was before I came out. Um, it really just shattered me. And I guess I've been kind of rebuilding ever since. And so I didn't start sharing the
But who
story.
hid this from you? Your mom?
It was my mom. Yeah, my mom did that to
Do you
protect
have a
me.
relationship with her today?
Oh my God. If my mother was not in Florida right now, she would be sitting on my lap. My mom, let me tell you something. Michelle, if you met my mother, you would want to
Yes.
pick my mother up and put her in the little teeny pocket in your jeans, because she is the greatest human being you could ever know.
Wait, so go back though. Like that's so confusing to me in my
I
brain.
know, I
Okay,
know.
so I'll let you take it
No,
back.
tell me which part's confusing and I'll clear it up.
More like, she hid this from you. You would think
Yes.
that there would be animosity, anger, and maybe you went through those stages.
No, I didn't.
Wow.
The only person I was ever angry at was my father, and not for the reason why you might think I would be. A lot of kids who lose their parents when they're young by suicide, there's an anger there. There's a resentment there. I never resented my dad for leaving me. I resented my dad for a long time for putting my mom in the position that she was now in. I was furious that he made her a single parent, and she had to go back to work, and she was working part-time, but she had to reinvent herself, and I was just furious at that. So never a single second have I had any animosity or anger toward my mom. All I feel is gratitude.
Wow.
All I feel is gratitude. So I'm an only child. And my dad was my person in the world. We did everything together. He was an outdoorsman. We hiked the White Mountains. He was a race car driver as a hobby. So, like, he did all the cool things. And I was like at his hip everywhere he went, everything he did. And he had no signs and signals. He very skillfully masked all of his depression and mental illness. No one, including my mother, had a single idea that anything was ever wrong. Super outgoing, the guy that would make everybody feel comfortable and seen and loved, and the first one to show up to help, and the first one to make you laugh, and the first one to want to go do the crazy thing, the exciting, you know, fun, beautiful thing. So when he died, it was such an unbelievable shock. My mom found him. I was at day camp. I was 10 years old. and she was supposed to meet him for lunch. He was working from home at the time. He worked in Boston. He commuted into Boston from the suburbs. We lived just north of Boston. And he was supposed to meet her, and he didn't meet her. And she called and he didn't answer. And so she walked around the corner home with someone from work who knew she was upset and nervous and went with her to keep her company, and they found him. And in that moment, she was like, I have to tell my now 10-year-old child who's coming off the bus in a few hours that her dad is gone. There is no way that I can tell her in 1978, when nobody was talking about grief or
Right.
loss, let alone mental illness, depression, suicide. Like, who the hell was talking about that?
Yeah, they were having
So,
Coke parties.
you're right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So she, in that moment, committed in her mind to never telling me, but also, if I ever asked, never lying to me. But
Okay,
but why would I ask?
that's
So
right.
my dad was a heavy smoker, super fit, tennis player, mountain climber, super fit, smoked 3 packs of Winston's a day. Heart disease ran in his family. So it was a really easy narrative.
Mm-hmm.
It was horrific. It was
Yeah, I mean, we've
devastating.
heard of professional athletes dropping dead, so it's like
Yep,
it's so it's plausible in your
exactly.
mind. I gotcha.
Exactly. I could even, as a 10-year-old child, connect those dots, and at least I could move forward somehow. Do you know what I
Wait, so
mean?
what does 45-year-old you say when you accidentally find out?
That was a shit show. So the very abridged version is that I go 35 years of my life. I get married. We have kids. We've been married 20 years. I've known about my father's suicide now for 13 years. That secret came out 13 years ago. I
Mhm.
didn't say a word to anyone, including my kids, for the first 3 years while I was just kind of processing it. But the way it came out was so innocuous. Dave and I were having lunch. We live in a really small town just north of Boston. It was Marblehead, Mass at the time. And like everybody knows everybody. And we're just sitting outside at a cafe in the summer having just lunch. And one of my cousins who didn't live in town anymore, like full time, happened to be visiting from out of town, saw us, came over, sat down. How are the girls? How are your kids? We're just back forth, just catching up. Out of absolutely nowhere, the way that I talk about it when I write about it, I say that she just like pulled a grenade out of her pocket, pulled the pin out, and just plopped it on the table.
Wow.
I don't think she had any idea what she had done in that moment.
So what'd she say?
We're talking about the girls, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she says, "So do the girls have any of the same mental illness your dad had?" And
Whoa.
I'm looking at Dave across the table, and Dave's looking at me across the table. Like, he had never met my father, but knew everything that there was to know about my father. I'm just like, what the hell? What?
Mhm.
And I'm looking at him, and she's waiting for an answer. And I'm just like, I was just so stunned. I didn't know what she was talking about. I didn't know how to respond. And I think I just like knee jerk reaction. I just said, no, they're fine. Because at that time they have since both done beautiful work on themselves, gone into therapy, gone on meds. I mean, been so actively working on themselves and their mental health for
Mhm.
years. Not at that moment. At that moment, they were just like teenagers, just doing their thing, and nothing had surfaced yet. And so I answered the questions, and no, they're fine. And then before I even finished the answer, she was off on another tangent with another question, and I was just kind of shell shocked, like, what the
You're
hell
like,
just happened?
hold on here for a
Right,
second.
right. And so it's worth mentioning that, and I think you already got the idea that my mom and she's my best friend in the world. We talk a million times a day. She's so involved in my life. She's the greatest human in the world. And yet I didn't like run to her after that. I didn't, she was in Boston. At the time they were coming up for 3 months in the summer. So they were always in Boston. I just wasn't with her in that moment, but I didn't call her. It was so out of character for me to not do that. I don't know why I didn't, but the next day she and I were having lunch, and it wasn't top of mind. I mean, clearly it was in there, but it wasn't top of mind. So we're like having lunch and we're just chatting, and always talking about my dad, always reminiscing the same stories, like on repeat, recycling, just to kind of always keep him present. We've
Mhm.
always done that. And we started talking about him. I don't even remember why. And all of a sudden, I don't know, it just came out of my mouth so fast. I couldn't even keep track of the thoughts. I said,
Mm-hmm.
was dad depressed before he died? And she looked at me like,
Where's this coming
where's
from?
that coming from? But she didn't really hesitate. She just said, yes, I think he was. So my dad worked in the city as an import exporter. And he also had another way more cumbersome and challenging job on top of that, which was a full-time job. My grandparents were in the real estate business, so they had a lot of real estate around Boston. And when my grandfather died, my dad took over. So he double dipped in like he had two very all-consuming jobs, but his family was a very challenging family. Everything was about money. There was no love expressed. There was no kindness shown. There was no nurturing. There was never any grace or kindness. And it was hard. I mean, my grandmother's nickname for my father was her unwanted because he was born on the night of an eclipse and she couldn't see it because she was in labor and she held it against him for the rest of his life. So that goes to show you where my dad came from. So, in the very last couple of weeks, few weeks of his life, he had been very overwhelmed with them and wanted to go off on his own. And he loved real estate management. And he wanted to start his own business. And he asked his family for some help. And they said, no, you will stay here and you will do this. And my mom and I, while we don't know what the reason was, his note was very, very brief. It was, I love you and I can't go on and I'm sorry. That was it.
Wow. I was going to
But
ask if there was a note.
there was, it was,
Oh.
yeah, there was.
I
And
mean, how
so
does that, I mean, that just must change like
everything.
this whole belief about like, I mean, like, yeah, it obviously sent you down for those 3 years of your kind of healing and processing. Like, who the hell was he at the end of the day? Like, because I was really close with my dad too. He actually did die of a heart attack after like in 2020, and
Oh, I'm so sorry.
thank you. My stepmom tried to revive him. I mean, they were on the way to the hospital because he wasn't feeling well, you
Oh,
know.
wow.
So, but he went so sudden. But I still have the knowing that you know who he was throughout all of that. Even though grief is grief, but I can't even imagine. Like it would almost would feel like he had a separate family somewhere. Like, you know what I mean? Like a whole separate like identity in some sense. So yeah, that's where my questions come from because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, what would I have done if my dad had done that? Like the as close
Hmm.
as we were, you know? I mean, I'm actually weirdly, and obviously your guides were pushing on your cousin that day. They were like, she just can't go through the rest of her life not knowing this truth. Like
Yep.
your
It
guides
was
were protecting you, and
yep.
it was truly for you. Interestingly enough, about all of this is that this is my dad's polo that I'm wearing
Oh, you're
today.
kidding.
Is I took one thing.
I love that.
It's just this pink polo, and I'm wearing it today.
I think you're crushing it. It looks so good.
Oh, well, thank you. I
I
I
love
love
that.
I love wearing it, and I mean, because you know, it feels like I'm hugging him a little bit in it. But it's interesting today that I wore this because I haven't worn it in a few months. I mean, I just pull it out every now and then. But it's so our dads are connected today in some
I
sort
love
of
that.
way. You know, they're like, look
I
at our
love it.
girls go.
I love that. And I don't know if you can see it because it's usually in view, but this is the only picture that I have that exists of my dad with me.
Look how handsome he was. Oh my God,
Is
you're precious there too.
Oh,
So that
thank
was
you.
very similar. You must have been 8 or 9 right there.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
Just
about
shortly
that.
thereafter. That's what he looked like. And that's pretty much what you look like. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Anyways,
was.
it's crazy. So I just thought I'd
Yeah.
tell you this whole full circle
No,
dad
I love
moment.
that. I absolutely love that. Yeah. So it was definitely a time. It was a time. And once I knew the truth, And few years went by, and I really felt like it was important for the girls to know, my girls to know, that look, mental illness and generational trauma, those things trickle down. That's in your DNA, and it was really important, I felt, and so did Dave, that we talked to them about it. So we sat down with them, and I told them, like, he's Papa Jimmy to them. They've never met him, but like I said with my mom, like, we talk about him so much in there. The few pictures that I have were always around the house, and he was just always a fixture. It always felt to them like they had experienced him.
Mm-hmm.
And for those few years when I just was so disconnected from him and so out of sorts myself, I didn't talk about him at all.
Mm.
And they realized it after the fact when I pointed it out, but they didn't really notice it at the time. But they definitely realized it when I said, I really haven't been talking about my dad. And they were like, wow, yeah, that's right. You haven't at all. And you always do. So when I came back around to him, I, it, so much happened. Like, my entire belief system around suicide, I always felt suicide was a selfish act. It is a very common belief. I was one of the people who felt it, not because anyone taught it to me. It's just what I believed. Kept it.
I believe that too. I have always
Yep.
believed that.
Yep. And I don't believe that anymore. And that was the start of things. It was learning about my own dad and learning that when somebody is mentally ill, it is our obligation to recognize that that is no different than cancer. It's no different than lung disease. It's no different than any kind of a potentially terminal illness that needs to be treated and acknowledged and hopefully cured, but not in all cases. It can't be in all cases. And so once I really, really dug deep and really understood that it's an illness, it's just when you think of it that way and you stop, you know, associating it with the stigma and the stereotypes that are attached to it, which are bullshit anyway, then it's like, well, wait a minute. Well, yeah, then how can you blame someone? You'd never blame somebody who died of cancer, or somebody who had a heart attack, or someone who got killed in
Right.
a car crash. Like,
Yeah.
why are we blaming people who are mentally ill and have an illness that needs to be treated for not being able to survive? And they're only choosing suicide because it's the only thing they have left that they have agency over. It's the only decision they have to end the pain they're in. It's like so simple to me now that I'm like, how did I ever think otherwise? But I did, and that changed everything. And then once I started talking about it after I told my kids and my family and friends, then that was it. That was it. I never looked back, and I talked about it every chance I could. My mom had this vision that I would eventually write about it, and I was like, of course I'm not going to write about it. I'm never going to write about it. Well, the book about it just came out last month,
Yeah.
so that happened, and I've been doing nothing but talking about it, writing about it for at least like the last 8 or 9 years.
Tell the listeners the name of your book.
It's called Surviving: Finding Hope After Suicide Loss, and it's a little different. It's not just a memoir. It's not just a resource guide or a field guide. It's not just a toolkit. It's all of those things combined. So it's very much the story of losing my dad twice. Talks about grief, and obviously it's about a suicide loss, but so much of the book is really just like generalized grief and loss, and how to move forward, and how to pace yourself according to what your heart needs the pace to be, and how to find the resources that help support you. And so all these things started percolating in my brain once I started talking about it, and getting back to like the whole kind of origin of like, how did I get to where I am right now doing the work I'm doing right now, and how did the help hub come to pass? Well, it was during this period I find out about my dad, and I shut down, and I'm kind of coming out of that period, and then all of a sudden I come out. I come out with my sexuality. And then I get involved. I want to do more. And I learn about the Trevor Project,
Mm-hmm.
which, for anyone who's listening who doesn't know, it's the largest LGBTQ crisis and suicide hotline
That's
on
right.
the planet. We service everyone, but our main demographic are at risk LGBTQ youth ages 13 to 24. But if someone calls, we're never going to turn them away, no matter who they are. But I wanted to do something more. I wanted to be the person on the other end of the phone that maybe could have made a difference if my dad had had a line like that to call. And I now had a child who was queer and so many friends who are queer. And I just wanted to, the intersectionality was mind blowing for me. It was like the queer community, suicide prevention, being authentic, helping people in a unique way. And so
Mhm.
I just dove into it and worked with Trevor to get trained as a crisis counselor and have been on the Lifelines for 4 years. And I think it was maybe a year or two after being on the Lifelines, just speaking to so many different people from so many different communities. And it just became really apparent to me because one of the things that we do is obviously hold a lot of space. We do a lot of, safety planning, and we give a lot of resources. And I was giving people resources and accumulating all these resources. And I didn't know what to do with them. And I realized that there are all these incredible platforms out there in the world that, if you're part of the BIPOC community, there are places that have all these great resources. Or if you're part of the queer community, great resources, or the elderly or veterans or AAPI, whatever community you're in, there are plenty of places to go. But there isn't one place where any of those people can go and have their unique needs supported because as members of the queer community, you and I might need something a little bit different than somebody in the BIPOC community needs, and vice versa, and so on and so on. And I just couldn't get off this like hamster wheel of thinking like, God, there has to be a place. And I looked and looked and looked and I searched for it and it wasn't there. So I was like, let's fuck it, let's build it. And I built it. And I just categorized all of these resources according to what I believed to be, kind of the more general categories and topics that would service the most people. And I just kept building and building and building and building.
What's like the top theme for people who call in? What are they most, what are they struggling with the most? Is it their identity? Is it, when they call into the hotline?
You mean Trevor Project Hotline?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, God, it's a range. I mean, there are a lot of people who just really are feeling depressed. The weight of, nowadays, it's the weight of the world. It's the
Hmm.
political climate.
Yep.
It's feeling like if you're queer, there's a bullseye on your back. If you're trans, there's a bullseye on your forehead. People are terrified. Their rights and their privileges are being taken. Their civil liberties are being infringed on. It, I mean, there's a lot of that right now. I mean, you have people who are, for whatever reason, a million different reasons, tired of the pain that they're in. The depression is too much and they want to end their life. I get a lot of those calls where you just have to meet someone where they are and try to develop a safety plan and a support system and hear them out and validate where they're at. Because whatever it is for them is all consuming. It's real for them. It's all relative to who you are and what you're going through. So, I mean, I wish I could say to you, okay, Michelle, there's this one, here are the top three, but I can't because it's such a wide range. I mean, I had a shift this morning and, one person was feeling incredibly depressed. They hated their job. They're not happy. They're in a toxic relationship, and they're very despondent. And another person is calling because they believe they want gender reassignment and they've never even explored saying a new name out loud, and they said it to me today. And oh my God, what a gift is that to have someone share that side of themselves and use a name they believe identifies them more with me. So yeah, I mean, there isn't any one thing, it's all the things.
You created Help Hub to make support accessible, more accessible rather. But
Yes.
what gap were you most determined to fill?
Wow. That's an interesting question that no one has ever asked me. I guess
Yes.
I
I
love, no
lived
one's asked me
with
that.
those moments.
That was a dynamite question. Honestly, I think just I wanted everyone, regardless of their community, to feel included and to feel seen and to feel supported and to feel, even at their worst, like help is out there. There's a community for you out there. There are resources for you out there. So, I mean, I know that's more of a generalized
Mm-hmm.
reason or mission, but it's really just to put resources, hope, and help a click or two away for everybody. I wanted everybody. I mean, I just saw the power of inclusion and the power of validating what someone's going through and who someone really is and what someone really needs. I saw that every day, every time I'm on a Lifeline call, I see it more and more. And so I just felt like we needed spaces like that. The more spaces like that we have, the more supported people feel and the lower the suicide risk goes.
For someone listening who feels like they are in the middle of, I call it the messy middle, or the muck,
Mhm.
what would you want them to know that they might not be able to see yet?
I say this often, and it's because I really think it's one of the most important things any of us can kind of embed into our brains.
Yeah.
The way that, and now I'm talking to the person that you just described. If
Mm-hmm.
you're out there and you're listening to me, I'm talking directly to you. The way that you feel right now, whether you feel hopeless or you feel scared or you feel depressed or you feel anxious or you feel misunderstood, like whatever it is that you feel, you're hurting, bad breakup, lost your job, um, don't know what your future is. The way you feel right now is not always the way that you are going to feel. It's right here. It's right now. It's real. It's heavy. It sucks. I know it sucks. It will not always feel that way. And it's like a two-part answer. Help is always out there. And I know people, I talk to them all the time. They're like, I don't have anybody. I don't have any family. I'm estranged, or I don't have anyone. I don't have a friend support group. I don't go out of the house. I'm I'm lost. I don't have a therapist. Okay, I hear you. I see you. You, if you have the ability to contact me, that means you have the ability to get online, to sign into a potentially a group of some kind, a support group of some kind, or do virtual therapy or some kind of resource, even if you have to do it from the confines of your home.
Mm-hmm.
There are people out there whose mission is to help you, whose intention is to help you.
I love that. Who has been a quiet anchor for you in your own journey, and what did they teach you about being held?
My husband, 1000%, Dave. Absolutely 1000%. And the physical manifestation of that is that he holds me more than anyone has ever held me, figuratively, physically. He knows me. I mean, I'm authentically who I am in the world at this point in my life. What you see is absolutely what you get. This is who I am. But he sees a side of me. We've been together since we were 17 years old.
Yeah, that's a
He
long
sees
time.
this. It is a long time. It's like 8,000 years is how it feels sometimes,
It
but
really
in the
is.
best possible way.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. But he holds me in ways that I have either never been held before or not allowed myself to be held before. I am more vulnerable and honest with him than I am with anyone. He actually got me out of a really, really bad headspace early on when the news about my father came out and my mother confirmed it. For me, it felt like, remember back in the day when you'd use your VHS tapes and you would like have a wedding tape and somebody inadvertently taped
Over it.
like a soap opera over it, right?
Mhm.
And it just overwrote everything, and
Mhm.
it was all a different movie. Well, that's how I felt about my
Your
life.
writer
That's
descriptions are so good.
thank you. That's I never used that one before, but that's how I feel.
That's a good
It
one.
it felt like my entire life was overwritten in the blink of an eye, and
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do with it. And I mean, your brain. Look, I'm a highly sensitive person anyway. I'm an empath. It's how I'm wired. Like it or not, it's how I'm wired. And I've learned to embrace it. I was very down on it for a long time in my life, and I've completely spun it and learned to embrace it. And it's how I write, and it's how I communicate, and it's how I create the content I create by being so unbelievably raw inside. But one of the things my brain does is just, it's always spinning, processing. And when I found out about my dad, it's like my entire life just flashed before
Yeah.
my eyes, and I questioned everything. What
Yeah.
was he really, when it was my
That's
birthday
what I was
party?
saying. Like, you
Yeah,
had to have been like, what
everything.
the?
Was he really happy there? When was he already planning things? Like, what was really going through his mind? Was that smile genuine? I mean, every memory. And I was only a 10-year-old kid, so you think about how many memories you actually have that are tangible. I probably only have like 5 years worth of them, maybe 6 years worth of them. And it was really hard because it felt like every single thing got contaminated in an instant. And I didn't know what to do with it. And Dave helped me a lot and said one day, he's like, don't know if you want to hear this or not, because I know that you've been really struggling with how much this changed everything, or how you feel like it changed everything. And he said, take this for what it's worth. He said, it only changed the way your dad died. It didn't change the way your dad lived. It did not change the way, like when you saw your dad behind the wheel of, yeah, right. When you found,
Dave, man,
yeah,
that was
Dave,
good. That was
Dave,
profound.
Dave can drop a nugget.
He
Let me tell you
definitely
something.
mic dropped on that one.
Yeah, he did. He killed it. So he was like, when you used to go climbing in the White Mountains with your
Yeah.
dad, like, can you sit here right now and tell me that you believe that joy is real, right? I said, yeah, of course. I feel it in my bones. He's like, well, because it was. He said, when he was with you, he was loving you. When he was
Hmm.
proud of you, he was proud of you. When he was laughing with you, that was joy. It doesn't change anything that you guys had together. It just changes how he died. And that just smacked me in the head like a 2 by 4.
Yeah.
And it just woke me up. It woke me up to the reality of how true that was. And
Hmm.
it changed everything for me, and it allowed me to find my way back to my dad, because when he said that to me, it was within the first few years of, like I mentioned a while ago, early in this conversation, that I was really upset with my dad. I was really sad and hurt and angry at my dad for what he put my mom through.
Hmm.
Just seeing her be so vulnerable, and I mean, she had the weight of the world on her. And being raised by a single mom, I was the only kid I knew who didn't have a dad.
Hmm.
I showed up at fifth grade. Fifth grade started, let's see, 3 weeks after my dad died. I felt like I was from another planet. No one could relate to me. Nobody wanted to talk to me. Nobody knew what to say to me. Adults didn't know what to say to me. My friends didn't know what to say to me. I was alone a lot. And
Isn't it crazy how our brain I mean, how much control words, a belief, like how we can literally latch on to that stuff. And that can be really toxic for a lot of people. I mean, it can really keep them stuck. So, is a lot of what you might do with the hub or Tyler, on the phone, really try to get somebody to understand that it's a belief?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because
that's
that
part of it.
kind of like was an interesting thought around answering the phone for for a critical hotline at the moment, the dire moment. I know friends who have been on those hotlines, and they've had instances so close to where they could hear the gun in the background, like the guy's clicking it, and just how holding space and kind of trying to get them to change their mind. I mean, like,
It's a disruption, Michelle. That's
yeah,
what it
it's a
is. It's
disruption.
we
I love that. Yeah.
that's what we're trying to create, because
Mhm.
when we disrupt that thought pattern,
Yep.
it's like an off ramp. If you can
Yes.
just, they're going a million miles an hour toward a brick wall, and if you can just get them to take the off ramp, they're changing their direction and their perception, and maybe a little bit of rewiring in that moment can cause them to take a breath, take a beat, take a second,
I feel like these tools are good for anything in life too.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
Having
They are.
being disrupted at work, like you're in your loop, like my my boss doesn't love what I did, I have whatever all the beliefs are behind stuff. It's so that disruption, I think, could be utilized in many different forms.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's such a powerful tool. I just don't think we think of it enough. I don't think we use it enough.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm really trying to make it clear. I think it's really important. I mean, meditation does that for me. It can disrupt,
Hmm.
especially like spoken where I'm just listening to that and then it does feel like I've had a great 15-minute power nap or something. But so let me ask you another question, and then we're going to hit the rapid fire round.
Okay, I'm ready.
When you think about connection, what do you believe we are all ultimately longing for?
I think at the end of the day, we just want to be seen and valued and heard and loved and appreciated for who we are. I think everyone just wants to be their authentic selves, but I think there's so much fear that lives within that, the capacity to do that. I think people just want to be seen and valued for who they are, and live authentically. And I know I do. I know that's more or less all that matters to me at this point. I want that for myself. I want that for my kids and the people I care about.
Yeah, I mean, I say I literally see you're so straight presenting that when you're masculine presenting, I'm literally a walking billboard for the community. And I think people, it's a responsibility that actually I'm really okay carrying, because I know that I lead with love, right? When I walk out the door, I'm like, you know, if it's cold and you're homeless, I'll get you a cup of coffee or a hot cocoa. I mean,
Hmm.
like, I don't care. It's just about humanity at the end of the day and us doing
That's
right by that. And
that's
you
it.
know what?
That's
Who I
it.
sleep with, it's like, who fucking cares?
Nobody cares.
Um,
By the way, for the record, your hair is amazing.
Thank you.
Love
I
it.
appreciate that. I get a lot of compliments on it, honestly.
I
And
love
I even had a gal on TikTok say, "Do you dye your hair?" And I go, "No, it's all mine."
I
And
love it.
she was like, "Oh, it's such a good color." I was like, "Thanks."
Yeah.
Okay, so here, thank you though. Well, here's our rapid fire round.
Okay.
One one word that describes how you hope people feel after finding your work. That was really wasn't rapidy, but
That's okay. Hopeful.
hopeful. I love that. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
What's in it?
No sugar at all. Just a little bit of almond milk.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A book that has stayed with you longer than expected.
That's an easy one. And I just met her in person. It's a book about grief. I highly recommend it. It was transformative to me. The book is called Grief is Love, and the author is Marissa Renee Lee. And whenever anybody asks me anything about any books that I've read, that one is just always top of mind for me. And she was just here in Boston this past week, and I got to meet her and hang out with her. So that is always my go-to book.
I love that. Are you a morning person or a late night thinker?
Morning, up every day at 5 a.m.,
Nice.
meditating first thing out of bed every day, 7 days a week. And by 9 o'clock at night, I'm drooling all over Dave.
um, a song that instantly shifts your mood.
Simon and Garfunkel,
Mm.
Cecilia.
Cecilia, you're
Hmm.
breaking my heart. All right,
Hmm.
I love it. A phrase you find yourself saying often.
Okay, Glennon Doyle, this is a shout out to you. We can do hard things.
I like that. Yep, that's true. Um, what does feeling at home in yourself mean to you? And that's sort of a different, I got away from what does living out loud mean
Hmm.
to you for you. I wanted to like ask you something different.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Ask me the question one more time.
Yeah. What does feeling at home in yourself mean to you?
Peaceful.
Hmm.
It means just being peaceful no matter who I'm with, no matter where I am, no matter what the circumstances are, knowing that I'm always meeting myself exactly where I am and that I'm comfortable in doing that.
Lisa Sugarman, it has been a pleasure having you here.
Michelle, the pleasure was all mine.
Tell Dave I'm his new fan.
I will. I will. And if he met you, he would say the same thing about you.
Well, maybe one of these days. Anyways, thanks for all the things you do in the harshest and hardest and most painful moments of people's lives. So I appreciate you. And yeah, everybody go read a book of hers and listen to her podcast and check out thehub.co.
I
Have a good day.
appreciate you. You too.
If you liked this episode, please hit the follow button and remember, sharing is caring. Until next week, stay proud, stay loud.